As you know, the king is the most important piece in your chess army. Protecting your king from attack is how you keep from losing the game. Because it's so important, there's a special move, called castling, which you can use to put your king in a safe place. Castling is the only time in which you are allowed to move two of your pieces, a king and a rook, in one move. Here's a board set up with only the white king and the two white rooks. You can castle either to the king side, which is called castling short, or to the queen side, which is referred to as castling long. To castle king side, first move the king 2 spaces toward the rook, to g1, then move the rook to the other side of the king, on f1. To castle queen side, do the same thing. Move the king 2 spaces toward the rook, to c1, and move the rook to the other side of the king, on d1. From black's point of view, this is castling king side. And this is castling queen side. In a game, castling moves the king away from the center of the board where it's more vulnerable to attack. Note how much safer the two kings are after they castle. Here, white castles queen side, and black castles king side. It is usually a good idea to castle early in a game, both to protect the king, and give the rook a chance to control the center files. There are 4 important rules that govern castling. Rule 1, the king and rook may not have moved from their starting squares. In this board setup, white cannot castle to either side, because both rooks have moved from their starting squares. Even if one of the rooks moves back, white still cannot castle. Rule 2, all of the spaces between the rook and the king must be unoccupied. In this diagram, white cannot castle king side because the knight is in the way. But he can castle queen side, because all of the spaces between the king and the rook are empty. Rule 3, the king cannot be in check. On this board setup, it would appear that white can castle king side, because neither the king nor rook has moved from its starting square, and the spaces between the rook and king are empty. However, the white king is currently in check from the black bishop on a5, so he cannot castle. Rule 4, the squares that the king passes over cannot be under attack, and since you can never move your king into check, the square to which it's moving can't be under attack either. On this diagram, the spaces between the king and rook on the queen side are open. However, 2 of the squares are under attack. The d1 square is under attack from the black bishop on a4, so the white king cannot pass over it. And the c1 square is under attack from the queen on c6, so the king cannot land on it. Again, the 4 rules governing castling are: 1. The king and rook may not have moved from their starting squares. 2. All spaces between the king and rook must be empty. 3. The king cannot be in check. And 4. The squares the king will pass over may not be under attack, nor can the square on which the king will land. See you in next video about en passant. Thank you for watching.